In this section of the course, we are going to talk about conditionals, that is the if statements, else if statements, and else statements. So a conditional is basically a way of giving your program the ability to make certain decisions based on some kind of input, some kind of condition, or some kind of output. So let's say, for example, we wanted to write a C program that accepts two numbers and it determines which of the numbers is the largest one. So we can do that. The first thing that we are going to do is first create a function. Now the function is going to be the part that actually determines which of the two numbers is the largest. So since it's going to return an integer back to us when we call the function, we need to declare the return type to be int. Now I am going to name this function largest number. So I'm going to say largest underscore number. So the function is going to take in two parameters, that is two numbers. So we need to declare that this function is going to take in two parameters. So these numbers are going to be of the data type int. So I'm going to create the first parameter and name it num1. I'll say int num1 and then I'll say int num2. So after doing this, just create curly brackets and press enter. Now remember that if you had watched the last video, we need to kind of like register this function at the top so that we don't have any errors, because C might not be able to find this function when we call it in the main function. Right, so now we need to write the code that actually determines which number is the largest number. So I'm going to write a conditional right here. So I am going to say if open parenthesis num1 is greater than num2. Now open curly brackets. So let me explain what is happening in here. Anytime you want to write an if statement in C, you first have to write the if keyword, then open this parenthesis. Now inside this parenthesis is where you now actually pass in what condition you are trying to test, or basically what condition you are trying to test or check for. Now this right here, this angle bracket is a logical operator. You have several logical operators. You have the greater than, you have the less than, and a whole lot more. Well, as we progress in this course, we're going to talk about more. So right now we are passing in the condition if num1 is greater than num2, and then we've opened this curly bracket. So inside this curly bracket is where the actual code that we want to execute if this condition is true is going to be in. So if this condition is true, that is if num1 is actually greater than num2, then we're just going to return num1 as the highest number. So we're simply going to say return num1. But what if num1 is not the largest number? It would mean that num2 is the largest number. So what we now need to do next is create an else block. So I'm going to say else, then open this curly bracket, and I'll say return return num2. So now let me explain what is going on in here. So first, we created a conditional an if statement that checks if the first number is greater than the second number. Then if the first number is greater than the second number, we're returning it here. So obviously if the second number is greater, if the first number is less, it means the second number is greater. So that is why we have this else block. Now an else block is typically the last option in a conditional. That is the last conditional that will run if every other condition is not met. So if this condition right here is not met, that is if the second number is greater than the first number, it means the else block is going to run, and then the program is going to return num2. So after writing this conditional, the next thing we now actually need to do is call this function inside our main function. So to do that, I will just I'm just going to call the function right here, and I'll pass in two numbers. Let's first pass in 3 and 1. So okay, so after we pass in 3 and 1, we now actually need to print out the value. So instead of just calling it like this, I'm going to print out something to the screen. I'm going to say printf, and I'll say the largest number is %d, and after passing in %d, I'm just going to put a \n right there to create a new line, and in here I'm going to pass in largest number. So basically what I am doing is, okay, let's remove this semicolon. What I am doing is I am trying to print the largest number is %d, and in place of %d I am calling this largest number function, and I'm passing in two parameters, which are 3 and 1. So obviously, because we had already written a conditional, the function is going to check which of the numbers is the largest, and it's going to return whatever number is the largest. So let's save this program right now and run it. So I think we're getting some kind of, okay, I didn't put a semicolon here. So let's run this again. So you can see that it prints out the largest number is 3, because 3 is the largest number. So let's say, for example, we changed here to be 9. Let's run that and see what happens. You can see the program gives us the largest number is 9. So using these conditionals, we have been able to determine which of these numbers is the largest. So you can imagine what kind of beautiful or awesome programs you can build using conditionals. Now we've written some code to actually check for we've written some code to determine which number is the largest out of two numbers. But what if we wanted to write a conditional that checks which number is largest out of 3 numbers? Now we can do that, and I'll show you how. We just need to update this largest number function right here. So after creating num2, I'm going to come and create another parameter, and I'll call it num3. So we now need to update this conditional. So instead of saying if num1 greater than num2, we're also going to add to it. We're going to say if num1 greater than num2 and num1 greater than num3 than num3. So what exactly is this double AND operator? Now this is another kind of logical operator that acts as an AND. So what it does is it checks two conditions to see if those two conditions are true. Now if those two conditions are true, whatever code is inside the curly brackets is going to be run. So again, this is just the AND logical operator, and it checks if two conditions are true. If two or more conditions are true, it checks if all the conditions that you passed into this parentheses are true. So now we're saying if num1 greater than num2 and num1 greater than num3, we want you to return num1 as the largest number. So what if num1 isn't the largest number? What if num2 is the largest number? Instead of saying else if here, we can make use of the else if keyword. Now the else if keyword is another way of including more than one conditional in your program. That is, it's a way of telling your program, okay, if this first condition wasn't satisfied, I want you to run this second condition. So I'm going to say else if, and then open parenthesis right here. Else if num2 is greater than num1 and num2 is greater than num3. That is, if if the second number is greater than the first number and the second number is greater than the second number, obviously we're going to return the second number as the largest, because because the second number is greater than both of them. So at the end, we now need to put an else. That is, if the first number isn't the greatest or the second number isn't the greatest, obviously we know that the third number is going to be the greatest. So I'm going to say else, and I'll just simply say return num3. That is, if the first number and the second number are the greatest, obviously it means num3 is the greatest number. So to test that our program is working, I'm just going to pass in a second number here, like let's say 1. So let me clear the terminal and try to run this code. We are getting an error somewhere. Okay, let me widen the terminal, clear, and try to run again. Okay, we're getting a number from an error. Okay, the reason why we're getting this error is because at the top right here we declared only 2. Sorry, we declared only 2 here, but we declared 3 here, so that's why we're getting that error. So to solve this, just add num3 at the top, and that error should be fixed. So let me clear the terminal right now and try to run this code again. So you can see it gives us the largest number is 9, even though we passed in 3 values, 3, 9, and 1. Let's try to change this up now. Let's make this 4, and let's make this like 9, or no, let's make this 7. Let me clear the terminal and run this code. You can see it gives us the largest number is 7. So you can see our program has been able to determine which of the 3 numbers is the largest, and you can already start picturing what kind of mad, or sorry, permit my language, what kind of crazy programs you can build using conditionals. So that is what we're going to talk about today. And there's one last thing that I wanted to mention. The else block should always be the last block in every chain of conditionals. So what I mean is that after you write an else block, coming down to write another conditional like else if it's going to give you an error, because you've already told C that else. So what that means basically is if every other condition at the top wasn't fulfilled, it simply means that I want you to run whatever is inside this else conditional. So the else conditional should always come last in every chain of conditionals. So you can have as many else ifs as you want, but the last conditional should always be else. The first is if and the last is else, and then you can have as many else ifs as you want. You can even have 100. You know, the sky is your limit. So that is what we are going to talk about in this video today. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me in the comment section and I will get back to you. So today we talked about conditionals, and I hope you learned a lot. See you in the next one.